Okay, we're holding now Daf Pei Aleph Omid Beis. Be'ezus Hashem Yisbarach. We're going to finish the entire Masechta now, Masechta Kidushin, which we started about 80 days ago. And Baruch Hashem, has been a fun ride. Some difficult parts, some easy parts. And Be'ezus Hashem at 8 o'clock, we will be making the Siyum here live on the Kollel channel. And we encourage everybody to come, to join, and to get inspired. We're going to have a beautiful Fabrengen in honor of Chof Bar Cheshvan, so please join us here at 8 o'clock. Okay, we're holding now on Daf Pei Aleph Omid Beis by Reb Chia bar Ashi. Okay, so we've been explaining different stories of the Chachamim davening to get rid of the Yetzer Hara. The Gemara says Reb Chia bar Ashi Abarogel Kol Idin Dahav Nafal La'apei. Reb Chia bar Ashi was accustomed to say. Reb Chia bar Ashi Abarogel Kol Idin Dahav Nafal La'apei Have Omer. Reb Chia bar Ashi was accustomed to say whenever he would daven, he would say, Harachaman Yatzilenu mi Yetzer Hara, may Hashem save us from the Yetzer Hara. Yom Achada Shmaitze de Beisu. So one day, his wife heard that he was saying, save me from the Yetzer Hara. So Amara, she said, Michti, Hakama Shni de Parish Leminai. She said to herself, it has been several years since he has withdrawn from having relations because she was old. So she thought that Bepashtus, he does not have a Yetzer Hara. And that's why he has no taiva. So my time so she said, what is the reason that he said this in davening? There's no concern that he has a Yetzer Hara. Yom Echad Avakagoris begins say one day while he was studying in the Beis Medrash in the garden, Kashita Nafsha, she adorned herself, Cholfa V'Tanya Kamei, and she walked past him. Amar La, he said to her, Man at, who are you? Amara, so she said, Ano Charusa Dahadari Miyema. I'm a Charusa who is a well-known Zaina, returning from my day of work. So what happened? Tave, he demanded that they get together. Amar Allah, she said to him, Aisi Nahalaye Lahach Rumona Deresh Tzutzitza. Give me that pomegranate from the top of the tree as payment. Shvar, he leaped up. Ozal Asi Nahala, he went and he brought it to her. And they had relations. He also when he came home, his wife was lighting a fire in the oven. He went and he sat inside. Amar Allah, so she said to him, My hi, why are you doing this? Amar Allah, he said, He says that I was nichshel with the Zaina. Amar Allah, so she said to him, Ano Havi, it was me. And what happened? He didn't pay attention to what she said. Until she brought rayas and she brought simana that I was talking to her. Amar La, he said to her, Ano Mia li surah kavni. Even though I talk at the end did not transgress, but I had in mind that I should be over Aveda. So the Gemara says, that all the days of this righteous man he would fast for the sin he intended to commit until he died by the death of tsar, the death of misery. Now, the Gemara is going to explain the mucker that a person who has in mind to be Eivan Aveda, even though he finds out later that he actually was not Eivan Aveda, nevertheless, he's going to be Chayiv. The Tanya we learned in Abraisa, the Torah says, concerning a husband who nullified the vow of his wife, the Torah says, Isha Hafedam, V'Hashem Yislach La, her husband has made them null, and the Hashem will forgive her. So he explains, what is the Torah referring to? Why would the woman require forgiveness if her husband has nullified her? Isha hafedam, her husband nullified her, Hashem yisachla, and Hashem has to forgive her. Why? If the husband annulled it, api halacha, she didn't do anything wrong, even if she was aver. So the Gemara says, Be'isha shenadra ben nazir, we're talking about, so it's like this. Be'isha shenadra ben nazir, to a woman who vowed to be a nazir, the shama baila v'heferla, so the husband heard and nullified her vow. But she does not know that her vow was annulled. She was drinking wine and she was being metama to mesim, which was in her mind, she didn't know about that, so she thought that she was violating her vow. And what does the Torah say? The Torah says, Hashem yistachla. So we see that even if somebody, the poil, didn't sin but thought about sinning, they require some kapara. The Gemara says, Rabbi Kiva, have a matalai, psuka, have a bachi. When Rabbi Kiva would come to the pasuk, he would cry. Amr would say, If a person had kavanah to eat chazer, pork, and kosher lamb came into his hand, like this woman, who intended to violate her own neder, but in fact she did not. So what does the Torah say? What's the halacha? The halacha is that tzricha kaparo slicha. So again, amra Torah. So again, Uma sheniskav le'echol b'sar chazer v'ala b'yad b'sar tola. Amra Torah says tzricha kaparo slicha. She needs to have kaparo. Sheniskav le'echol b'sar chazer v'ala b'yad b'sar chazer. Somebody who had in mind to eat chazer and actually ate chazer, alachas kama v'kama, how much more so they need to have slicha and kaparo. In a similar manner, you can say the same lesson is derived from this pasuk. Though he know it not, yet he is guilty and he shall have a sin. When Rabbi Akiva would come to this pasuk, he would cry. If a person had in mind to eat permitted fat and forbidden fat mistakenly came into his hands, the Torah says he gets a sin. So how much more so? Somebody who eats forbidden fats, he had in mind to eat forbidden fats, and he ate forbidden fats, how much more so does this person bear a sin? The pasuk that, though he know it not, yet he is guilty, he shall bear a sin. With regard to this matter, all sufferers shall grieve, since the pasuk teaches that one is punished even for sinning b'shegi. The Mishnah taught misyachid adam im imoy, a person can seclude with his mother. Rabbi Yehуда says misyachid adam imachese, a man may be secluded with his sister. V'dorim imay v'imbite, and he lived with his mother or with his daughter. Ki amrisa kamei Shmuel. When I said this in front of Shmuel, Amar, he said, a person is not allowed to be secluded with all the arayis, and even with an animal, as it's also to engage with an animal. So according to Shmuel, you're not allowed to be miyachid. So now we learned in the Mishnah, a man can be secluded with his mother and with his daughter and sleep alongside with them and have bodily contact. So the Gemara says, this is a Tiyufta to Shmuel, because Shmuel says, well, it's not loud enough. Tiyufta to Shmuel, you raised it? Tiyufta to Shmuel. So this is a Tiyufta to Shmuel. Why? Because Shmuel says that a person cannot be miyachid with arayis. Shmuel, so Shmuel said, we'll tell you, according to your reasoning, we learned in Abraisa, it says that when it comes to your sister or your mother-in-law and all those who are forbidden relations, including the mother and the daughter, a person cannot seclude with them, only with Edim. So the chayda from here, it's mashma be'edim in, only with Edim can you seclude with them. Shalei be'edim lay. So the chayda, this brisa supports Shita Shmuel that a person cannot be miyachid with arayis. Ella, rather, the Gemara says, Tanoihi. Be'emes is a machlikas tanoim, as whether one could be miyachid with his mother or sister. The Tanya we learned in a brisa. Rabbi Meir, the Meir says, Hizaru bi mipnei biti. The Meir says, be careful with me because of my daughter. Make sure I'm not miyachid, I'm not yichud with my daughter. Rabbi Tarfon says, Hizaru bi mipnei kalasi. He says, be careful with me because of my daughter-in-law. So liglag olav is a Talmud. So it says that a certain student mocked him for being very wary of not to have Isra Yichud. Who? No, you can come in. You should not be miyachid with. So what happened? He said, "Hizaru bi mipnei kalasi." Be careful. Make sure I'm not over the Isra Yichud with my daughter-in-law. So what happened? A certain student started mocking him for being like, what, you're worried about your daughter-in-law? So the Gemara says, it was not many days passed until that student stumbled to sin with his mother-in-law. The Gemara says that according to Shmuel, it's also for one to be alone, even with an animal. Abaye removed all the animals from the entire field he was in. Avsheshus ma'aber lei mitzra. Avsheshus transferred the animals to the other side of the fence. Chazid yosef v'kagaris v'kaimim behema kamei. Nachumo. Rav Chanan min Nardoi equal Rav Kana lepum naharo. Rav Chanan from Nardoi happened to come to Rav Kana im pum naharo. Chazid yosef v'kagaris v'kaimim behema kamei. He saw that he was sitting and studying, and an animal was standing before him. Amar lei, he said, leisor lei mara filim behema. Don't you hold that you cannot be yichud with the behema? Amar lei, he said, labadaite. It was not on my mind that an animal was performing. Amar Rava says, a person could be secluded with two sisters-in-law and two rival wives. In other words, two husbands who share a husband, two women who share a husband. With a woman and her daughter. A woman and her mother-in-law, and a woman and her husband's daughter. Similarly, a person could be biyuchel with a woman and a girl who knows the meaning of bia, but should not give to bia. Now, the reason why in the beginning, with two yivames or two tzares, or isha b'chamesa, or isha bas baila, is because these people hate each other, so they're worried to be eved avera, as the other person might rat them out. And in the other case, the woman is concerned that the child will reveal her behavior, so they're careful not to be over. The Mishnah teaches that when one's children have grown up, this one sleeps in his garment and this one sleeps in her garment, but they can share the same bed. And how old must the child be to be considered grown up for the purpose of this halacha? He says, when it comes to a girl, it's the age of 9 years and 1 day. A child is 12. Other people say some people say no. A girl has to be the age of 12 years old, and a boy has to reach the age of 13. And according to this and that, according to both opinions, the girl is considered a child, and she has reached the age that she has shadayim, which shows she has puberty. He says, they taught that a man can sleep in close proximity of his minor daughter only if she's not ashamed to stand naked before him. But if she's ashamed to stand naked before him, it's usher. My time, what's the reason? Yetzer al basha, is that the Yetzer Hara has a hold upon her, and otherwise she would not be ashamed, so you have to be careful. Gemara says, Rav Acha bar Abba arrived at the house of Rav Chisda, his son-in-law. Shakle lebas barte oisfeg bekanfeg. So Rav Acha bar Abba came to Rav Chisda's son-in-law's house. He took his daughter's daughter, took his granddaughter, and oisfeg bekanfeg, he placed her on her lap, like a grandfather does. So Amar Lei, so Rav Chisda said to him, Leisover lo mar de mekache. Doesn't the master think that she might already be mekudeshes? Amar Lei, so he said to him, Avart loch aderav. If that's true, you have transgressed the ruling of Rav. Amar Rav Yehuda Mar Rav, Yitem Rav Elazar, Oslo Mishikadosh is b'dig shitana. You're not allowed to be mekadosh a girl when she's a ketana. Hashik tagdel v'temer, until she says clearly. Rav made a takana that she has to say b'fleni ani reitza. So he was trying to be a Iber Chacham and say that l'cheres she could be mekudeshes. So he says, but you're not allowed to be mekadosh. Rav says you cannot be mekadosh a ketana. Mar nami overlay other Shmuel. So what happened? He replied. Rav Chisda replied, "You were over on what Shmuel says. Shmuel says you're not allowed to make use of a woman. So how could you have your granddaughter sit in your lap?" I hold like the other thing that Shmuel said. All are for the sake of Shemayim. In other words, I'm not bringing close my granddaughter because of Avas Nashim, but because of family. Like Rashi says, I want to show affection, I want to show family affection without any elements of znos at all. Okay? Next Mishnah, the Mishnah says, Lo yilamed Adam Ravak Seifrim. A person who is a Ravak, a bachelor, without a woman, should not be a Malamed Tinekes, should not teach children. Lo yitalamed Isha Seifrim as well. A woman cannot act as a teacher for children. Rabbi Elazar says, Af mi she'en le'isha le'yilamed seifrim. Even a person who does not have a wife should not be a teacher. Rabbi Yehuda says, Le'yida ravak behema. A bachelor may not herd cattle. Le'yishnu shnei nevakis b'talas achas. Nor may two bachelors sleep with one covering, lest they transgress the isser of mishkav zocher. However, v'chacham matinim, chacham say it's mutter. My time, what's the reason that a bachelor, what's the reason why a ravak, why should a ravak not be a malamed tinekes? So he says like this, if you're going to say it's because of the children, that maybe he'll come and have mishkav zachar with the children. They taught Rabbi Yehuda actually that Yidden are not suspected of having homosexual bia, nor in having relations with an animal. Ella, so what's the reason why a ravak cannot be? A ravak mishum imasa diyenka. The reason why a bachelor cannot teach children is due to the mother of the children, who come to the school from time to time and he might sin with them. And Isha, with regards to a woman may not serve as a teacher of children, mishum ahavasa diyenuka, because she may come to seclude with the fathers of the children. Rabbi Lezer says, Af mi she'enle. Rabbi Lezer says, even if one does not have a wife, may not act as a teacher of children. They asked the Shaila, mi she'enle isha klal. Does he mean one does not have a wife at all? Or perhaps he's referring to even to a wife in a circumstance where she's not residing with him at all. So Tashma, come and bring a raya, af mi she'en loy. Even one who has a wife, but she's not residing with him, may not act as a teacher of children. And this is with according of Rabbi Lezer, has indicated that this restriction applies even if the man is married but the wife is not with him. Rabbi Yehuda says, a bachelor aravak may not herd cattle, and also two bachelors sleep in one covering. Tanya, we learned in a brisa, they said to Rabbi Yehuda, the Yidden are not suspected of having homosexual relations, with an animal, or having relations with an animal. Okay, the last Mishnah, the Mishnah says, Kol sha'asakav imanoshim le'isachid im noshim. Anyone who has professional dealings primarily with women may not be secluded with women. Le'ilamed adam es b'nai umanes hanoshim. And a person may not teach his son a trade that necessitates that he has interactions with women for the same reason. And Meir says, a person should always teach his son a clean and easy trade and daven for success. Now what? He should daven to whom wealth and property belongs. As ultimately, there's no trade that does not include both poverty and wealth, since a person can become rich from any profession. So he says like this: poverty does not come from a particular trade, nor does wealth come from a particular trade, but rather all is this and according to the person's merit. Therefore, one should choose a clean and easy trade and daven for Hashem's success. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, have you ever seen a beast or a bird that has a trade? And yet they don't have a parnasa, and they don't have a trade, and they earn their livelihood without anguish. So he says, I am a human being, was created to serve Hashem, who formed me. And I'm here to serve Hashem. So should I have not, so in other words, so he says that I should earn my parnasa without anguish, just like the chayav oif. Ella shahidata ma'isai. He says, I've committed evil actions, v'kipachti es parnasi, and I have lost my livelihood. This is why people work to earn a living. Abba Gurion ish saydin aimim mishum Abba Gurion. He says like this: Lo yilamin adam es b'nei chamor. A person should not teach his son the trades of a donkey driver, gamol, a camel driver, kador is a pot maker, sapon is a sailor, roya, a shepherd, a chenvani, and a storekeeper. Why not? Because umanis listim. Their trades, all these trades are the trades of robbers. In other words, all these measures involve some sort of dishonesty and likely will lead a person to robbery. Rabbi Yehuda says in Abba Guria's name, Hachamarin Ruben Nishoim. Most donkey drivers are wicked. Hagamolin and most camel drivers, Ruben Kshedim, are kosher. Hasapon and Ruben Chasadim, most sailors are pious. Teiv Shebereifim, even the best of doctors, La Gehenim, will go to Gehenim. The best, the finest, the fittest of butchers, Shutafi Shal Amalek, are partners of Amalek. Ibn Nahiroi says, Maniach Adam, Kol Umay Shabailam, Ve'eni Melamed as Bini Eloteda. I set aside all the trades of the world, and I teach my son only Teda. As a person partakes of a reward in this world, and the principle remains in the world to come. When it comes to other professions, this is not so. When a person is either sick or he's old, or he has yisurin and he can't work anymore, so he dies in hunger. Teira is not like that. Say, first of all, Teira preserves him from all evil and sin in his youth, and provides him with a future and hope in his old age. The Mishnah explains, with regards to the youth, what does it say? And they wait for Hashem, shall renew their strength. What does it say in regards when he's older? They shall still bring forth fruit to his old age. It says by Avram Zaken, Hashem Berach is Avram Bakel. It says Avram was old, and Hashem has blessed Avram in everything. We find that Avram Avinu did and learned the entire Torah before it was given. It says, because Hashem listened to my voice, kept my charge, my commandment, my statutes, and my laws, which is mashman that Avram observed all the mitzvahs on his own accord and was rewarded his old age as a result. We learned that anyone who has professional dealings, primarily with women, his practice and company are bad. For example, hatzurfim, for example, the smiths, ve'hasarekim, and the carters, ve'hanakores, and the fixers of handmills, ve'harechlin, and the peddlers of jewelry and perfume, ve'hagardiim, and the weavers, ve'hasaporim, and the barbers, ve'hakoifsim, and the launderers, ve'hagora, and the bloodletters, ve'habalon, and the bathhouse attendants, ve'habursiki, and the people who take care of the tanneries. You're not allowed to make them a melech or a kohen gadol. My time, what's the reason? Not because there's something wrong with them, but because their trades are demeaning, and if they ever would get this position, nobody would respect them. 10 things were stated with regard to a bloodletter. He walks on his side, in other words, he's very arrogant. And his spirit is arrogant. And he leans and sits. He does not sit down like others, but leans on an object, also in a very arrogant way. And he is stingy. He's stingy. And he's envious. He eats much and discharges only a little bit. And we're choshed him for stealing and for killing people. Bar Kapara taught, a person should always teach his son clean and easy trade. Mahi, so the Gemara says, what is it? Rabbi Yehуда says, he says, machta de talmiyusa, which means like he should be a needle to embroidery, which is a clean and easy trade. Tanya, we learned in a brayso. Rabbi says, there's no trade that disappears from the world, since all occupations are needed. And he says like this, fortunate is the person who sees his parents in an elevated trade. Woe is he who sees his parents in a lowly trade, and therefore he's going to follow his parents. You can't have the world without a perfumer and without a tanner. Fortunate is the person whose trade is perfumer, and woe to the person whose job is to be a tannery. You can't have a world without scharim and a kevis, male and female. However, don't take this literally. Fortunate is the person who has males, who has children of males. And woe to the person whose children are females. Rabbi Meir says, a person should always teach his son a clean and easy trade. And he should request compassion from the Eibishter's wealth, whose wealth and property belongs to him. Poverty does not come from a trade, and wealth doesn't come from a trade either. Geld, parnasa, shidus comes from Hashem. Mine is the silver, mine is the gold, says Hashem. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Eimer Isam Yomecho. Have you ever seen a beast or a bird that has a trade? He says, I never saw a deer work as one who dried figs. I never saw a lion who's a porter. I never saw a fox who's a storekeeper. They get their parnasa very simple, very without anguish. They were created to serve me. And I'm here to serve Hashem. So these people, and they were created to serve me, and they get their parnasa without tsar. My whole purpose is to serve Hashem, so I should not have any anguish when I make a parnasa. He says that I've committed evil actions and I've lost my livelihood. Like it says, your sins have turned away. Okay. Mirz Hashem, the last part we're going to do by the Siyam.